Everything is in that room. Yeah, Snyder is about to grab one, but everything is in that room over there. What's that? Well, what happened was they're using the tables in there they have in the party. Got it. Yep, and I don't trust this thing to just sit up here like this. Say again. One more time, Brother Martin. Can I tie it with like a string? With like a string? Yeah, probably. Why are you not sitting right here? Why you gotta go through all these changes? I'm gonna get Brother Mark. I'm gonna get my guy around. Oh, right. How long you have this fucking thing? I got I thought the tide and it broke. Wow, that's good. Really good. You ready? No, it's not blocking the camera. All right, we in business. Y'all ready to pray? BJ, if I tell you not to do that one more time, man, we're gonna have a problem. Stand up so you can pray, son. And I believe it's like this angle. It's like this here. Yeah, remember we was facing that back corner. Revelation chapter 6 and verse 4. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah our Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Shema Yisrael. Yahuwah Eloheinu. Yahuwah Echad. Chapter 20. And starting at verse 3. We will have no other mighty ones. We will have no other mighty ones. Against the Most High. Against the Most High. We will not make any carved image. We will not make any carved image. Or any likeness. Or any likeness. Of that which is in Shamayim above. Or which is in the earth beneath. Or which is in the waters under the earth. Or which is in the waters under the earth. We will not bow down to them. We will not bow down to them. Nor serve them. Nor serve them. For Yahuwah our Elohim. For Yahuwah our Elohim. Is a jealous El. Visiting the wickedness of the fathers on the children, to the third and fourth generation, of those who hate him, but showing kindness to thousands of those who love him and keep his commandments, who will not bring the name of Yahuwah our El to nothing. For Yahuwah will not leave us unpunished, who brings his name to nothing. We will remember the Shabbat day to keep it Kodesh. 6 days we will labor and do all our work. But the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahuwah our El. For in 6 days, Yahuwah made Shamayim and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore, Yahuwah barak the Shabbat day. We'll respect our fathers and our mothers, so that our days are long upon the earth. We will not murder. We will not commit adultery. We will not steal. We will not bear false witness against our neighbors. We will not covet anything that is our neighbor. Father, Yah, we give thanks for this day, for the set apart day, Father. We give thanks for the struggle, Father, because we know that through the struggle, Father, that the victory is that much more sweeter. Father, we pray for those people who may be in transit, Father, that you would allow them to make it safely, Father. Allow us, Father, just gather together, Father, for your name's sake, to receive your word according to as it is written, Father. We pray, Father, that you would remove anything that is unlike you, Father. That you would tear down any stronghold that anyone that there's on anyone's heart, Father, on anyone's mind, Father. That you will open the hearts and the minds and the ears of these your people, Father, to receive your word. That you would give utterance unto the speaker and understanding unto the hearer, Father. That you would just tear down strongholds and remove any obstacle, any stumbling block for your word to go forth, Father. We pray, Father, just for every soul that is gathered together, Father, for this Shabbat, Father, that rest will be granted unto each and every one of us, Father, that you would just impart wisdom upon each and every one of us, Father. Allow your word to be received with thanksgiving, Father. And all these things we pray and give thanks. Hashem Yehovah, Ben Kah Yehoshua HaMashiach, Baruch HaKadosh, so be it. So be it. Slow. How we looking on the need, Jerome? I'm sure everybody we gonna fill in slowly but surely. Camera good? Camera good, brother Mark? Can you see us both? You mind adjusting? Can you adjust? In fact, we're all on the same height. No lying there. everything they clear now. Huh? Yeah, send it back. Brother Mark. All right. So I had a discussion with the other teachers maybe about a month ago. And we was talking about how, all right, the emphasis lately have definitely been on the law, keeping the law, basically showing how everything that we read and all the lessons and everything that we're getting reflect back to the law. But the one thing that we haven't been doing, okay. Wherever you want to sit, brother. It's a whole row up front. You're amongst family. All right. Well, the one thing that we doing was actually reading the law the way how in the scriptures it states how they was, reading through the law and they was reading. We're gonna hit a couple scriptures that's gonna hit that, but I know we used to do that. I know for those of us that were in Egypt, we used to do that every Sabbath. Every man in the room, we would go around and every man in the room would just read like a chapter, I think a whole chapter out the law, every single Sabbath. Okay. And so the thing about that and what I suggested was because it kind of became a little bit mundane and it was just like reading for the sake of reading and nobody was really holding anything from that. So I for one, wasn't really in agreement with just reading it for the sake of reading it. But let's go to Exodus 24 and verse 6. So I want to show y'all a few things out the scriptures first before I continue down this road, just to how we do. Exodus 24 and verse 6.
Exodus chapter 24 and verse 6. And Moshe took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar.
Okay, so this is when they were making a covenant at Mount Horeb, and Moshe, he cleansed the people, or he sanctified the people with the blood. Continue.
Verse 7. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Most High has said, we will do and be obedient.
So this is when the people made the covenant with the Most High at Mount Horeb. But the key part that I wanted to point out, or the part that I wanted to show y'all, was the fact that he took the book of the covenant and he read in the audience of the people. Now let's go to 2 Kings 23 and verse 2. Y'all gonna see the ongoing theme with this. It's not gonna be hard to pick out. 23 and verse 2.
I got a new Bible, so just bear with me. The page is sticky.
2 Kings 23 and verse 2.
2 Kings chapter 23 and verse 2. More like no deal. It says, and the king went up in the house of the Most High, and all the men of Yehuda and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets and all the people, both small and great.
Both small and great. And what did he do?
And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of the Most High.
So even the king, when they went up into the with all the inhabitants into the house of the Most High, he read the same thing. He read the book of the covenant in their ears. Now, this is where it kind of, I'm not gonna say change up a little bit, but just get in a little bit more detail, a little more in depth. Let's go to Nehemiah, the 8th chapter. Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 1. Put a little pot on it.
The 81.
Yep, Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 1.
Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 1. And all the people gathered themselves together as one man into the street that was before the water gate. And they spoke to Ezra the scribe to bring the book of the law of Moshe with the Most High, which the Most High had commanded to Israel.
Which the Most High did what?
Commanded Israel.
So the people asked Ezra to bring out the book of the law of Moses, right? And notice how in verse 1 it says, and all the people gathered themselves together as one man into the street, which means that they were on one accord, right? Of one man, on one mindset, one body, right? Continue.
Verse 2. And Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation, both of men and women.
Both men and women.
And all that could hear with understanding.
And all that could hear with what?
Understanding.
With what?
Understanding.
And all that could hear with understanding. And what did he do?
Upon the first day of the 7th month.
Now we know we're about a week late. We're about a week late off that. It was just coincidental. It wasn't like, but it was just coincidental that this scripture, we're about a week off of that. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And he read therein before the street that was before the water gate from the morning until midday, before the men and the women, and those that could understand. And the ears of all the people were attentive to the book of the law.
And the ears of all the people were attentive unto the book of the law. So, like I said before, and the traveler just explaining to them the conversation that we had about reading the law, that and why we weren't just going to just read for the sake of reading, but jump down to verse 5.
Verse 5. And Ezra opened the book in the sight of all the people, for he was above all the people. And when he had opened it, all the people stood up.
All the people stood up. So first, before we continue, I particularly like to get understanding on things that might not be totally clear when I read it, right? So when I read this and it stated that Ezra was above all the people, right? And I'm like, well, is that saying that Ezra was better than them? Like when it says above all the people? What do y'all think that that's statement?
I think they mean actually physically positioned like over where they were at, and I think that's why they like stood up or had something to do with them standing up to like
somewhat. He was apart. He is separated from the crowd. When it says above, it means that he was separated from them. So he wasn't a part of all the people, but he was actually separated, how we separated, as a speaker. Yeah. Well, not necessarily in the context of a hierarchy, but just separated because he was actually speaking, right? Jump down to verse 8.
Verse 8. So they read in the book of the law of the Most High distinctly.
So they read the book of the law. Here's the key part right here. They read the book of the law and did what?
And gave the sense.
And did what?
Gave the sense.
And when they gave the sense, that means that they expounded, right, on the book of the law. They didn't just read the book for the sake of reading, but they actually made sense of what they were reading, expounding. Continue.
And caused them to understand the reading.
And with the expounding of the book of the law, they caused everybody who was listening to understand what was actually being read instead of just reading and it becoming mundane and it just becoming routine and really not fruitful, right? So the whole point, it says, with all thy getting, get what? So it's no point in us just reading just to read. So we read and expound so that we get understanding. Because grab Joshua chapter 1 and verse 8. Because what it boils down to is that over the past, it seemed like forever now, every lesson that's been brought out, be it by myself, Trav, Cole, whoever bringing the lesson out, the entire, I say, there's a lesson, and then there's a portion of the lesson showing that all of these different topics and all of these different principles go right back to the law, right? But it's difficult to, not necessarily difficult, but what we need to do is understand the law, also with showing that these things go back to the law. So we always have these discussions, especially Harry, when you bring forth certain questions, and then we get, understanding because we go through and we read through and we expound, right? So it's no different. So go to Joshua, read Joshua 1 and 8.
Joshua chapter 1 and verse 8. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate therein day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then you shall make your way prosperous.
Okay, stop. So it's stating that meditation on the law, right therein, that you may observe to do all that is written therein. So there's no way that you can observe these things if you don't truly understand what they're saying and what's meant, right? So that's the first thing we have to do. Not only just read it, but read with understanding, read with comprehension, understand what it is that we're reading. Because a lot of times, and we all are a witness to this, the way that each one thing that all of our even though we have different teaching styles, the one thing that all of our teaching styles share is there's a question response type of thing, right? And far too many times there's a question asked and no response. Either the person isn't confident with the answer that they have, even though it could be the right answer. But with true understanding, you have that confidence to say, well, yeah, just like you would say, okay, well, the number one answer out of all the questions be like, so who is this? It's the Mashiach, right? People can answer that question with confidence because it's evident, it's understood, right? That all these different places in the scriptures is talking specifically about the Messiah. So the desire should be to have that same understanding as it pertains to all of these different aspects of the scriptures, not just that, but everything. And so the point is not to come here week in and week out just to show up, right? We're not here for that. We're here week in and week out so we can actually get what the book is stating. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. I put time and a lot of effort into putting these lessons together. I know you ain't no different. I know whoever teach ain't no different. We put time and effort into it. And it's a little bit like disheartening when you put that time and effort in and then you drop the lesson and then the next week you ask a question about the prior lesson and it's like crickets because either the person really didn't get it or really wasn't. So I think that's the goal here is to make sure that we all get it. That's what we're here for. Not to get it, not so that we can tell it to somebody else, but get it so we can understand it. And like this scripture just says, and that we may observe to do according all that is written therein. Read, continue after that, written therein, because this is the result of that. Go ahead.
It says, for then
what?
You shall make your way prosperous and have good
success. And then you shall have good success, right? Don't miss that principle. Meditating on the book of the law, to observe to do these things. Now, don't get me wrong. It's cool to have the knowledge part of things that seem as be, like mystery. That part is great. Don't get me wrong. It's great. But the basics, we got to know the basics so to be able to observe to do all therein, so that our ways become prosperous and we have good success. Like it's a principle within that understanding. It's not just understanding, you know, it says the scripture said that the fear of the Most High is just the beginning of understanding. And that was, you know, just speaking personally, that was the beginning for me. It started off as fear, like, man, I need to get myself together, because if I don't get myself together, I'm gonna end up in a bad place. And I felt fearful, real talk. And so that was truly the beginning of understanding. And then on top of that, then you start to really seek, and you find, and you seek, and you find, and you seek, and you find, and then knowledge increase, right? So from this point forward, what we're gonna make the effort to every month, one Shabbat out of every month, to reading and expounding on a portion of the law. It's not, it may not follow a particular order, but it's whatever, you know, we pull, we're gonna read and expound specifically on the law. So that's what my lesson is today. So I wanted to hit those scriptures to give you a baseline of what I'm bringing and why I'm bringing it. So we're gonna stroll through Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter today. You know, it was miraculous. I was sitting at home. I was sitting at home. Something said Deuteronomy chapter 4. No, I'm just joking. But so we're gonna go through Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, and we're gonna read. Gonna try to read the whole thing, but not just reading. Just read through. We're gonna read and expound on all of the principles and topics contained in this particular chapter. So let's start with Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 1. So if you got one of these handy dandy little bookmarks in your books, you're gonna get some use out of it today. So you can put that boy right on Deuteronomy 4, because we're gonna flip back and forth to that book, that chapter the whole day. So let's start at chapter 4 and verse 1. Verses 1 and 2, actually.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, to the statutes and to the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that you may live and go in and possess the land which the Most High, your power of your fathers, gives you. You shall not add to the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish anything from it. And keep the commandments of the Most High, your El, which I command you.
That's good right there. Okay. So, verses 1 and 2. What stands out to you in verses 1 and 2? There was something that specific that stood out to me when I was reading these two verses. Anybody?
Should add to the word that
my man. Exactly. That's the very thing that popped out at me when I saw it. It says, you shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish anything from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahuwah your El, which I command you. So this is Moses, right? Telling them in verse 1, therefore listen, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that you may live, right? And go in to possess the land, which Yahuwah. So this is after they came out of Egypt, right? And they're going into the promised land. Let's grab Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 5. Like I said, keep your finger in the page, whatever you got to do in Deuteronomy 4, because we there all day. The 5.
Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 5. Every word of the Most High is pure.
Mm-hmm.
He is a shield to them that put their trust in him.
What is a shield used for? Protection against what? An attack, right? You don't know. You don't just whip your shield out unless you're in a fight, right? It's a fight going down there, and that's what I just happened to be. I caught 300, right? It came on, and they, you know how everybody see that movie, how they rock the shield, they had the shields and the sword, but until it came time to fight, where was their shield at? It was on their back. They was just carrying it, right? But when the fight broke out, they whipped that shield out, because the shield specifically is when the attack is coming. So it says every word of Yah is pure, and he is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. So that I got from that. But verse 6.
Verse 6. Add you not to his words, lest he reprove you, and you be found a liar.
And lest he reprove you, and you be found a liar. So if you add unto the word, this principle that we get in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 2, if you add unto the word, right, it says flat out, lest he reprove you, and you be found a liar. Add not unto his word. Why? In verse 1, because his word is pure. If you add unto it, what do you do to it? Exactly, right? It ain't pure no more, because now you done made it your words. You done twisted it, you done changed it. But then it says, and it says, lest he reprove you. What's the reproof? Let's grab Revelations 21 and verse 8. And verse 8.
Revelation chapter 21 and verse 8. But the fearful and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars.
And some liars?
All liars.
And all liars. So when you add unto the word of the Most High, it says flat out that you be found a liar, right? So you got reproof coming, and that coupled you right in with the unbelieving, the abominable, murderers, whoremongers, sorcerers, and idolaters, and shall have what?
And shall have their part in the lake, which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
Right? Jump over to chapter 22 and verse 18.
Revelation.
I think this one, no, go ahead. This one that we know very well.
Revelation chapter 22 and verse 18. For I testify to every man that hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add to these things, the Most High shall add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of the prophecy, the Most High shall take away his part of the book of life, and out of the Kodesh city, and from the things which are written in this book.
So when you add and take away unto the word, and when you add or diminish, like let's flip back to Deuteronomy chapter 4, when you add or diminish from the word of the Most High, or from the word of the law that Moses gave to us, you put yourself in jeopardy of the lake. Like this is really serious. Like it really go into that all scripture is of no private interpretation, right? Because if you don't use the scriptures to solidify the scriptures, and you bring forth your own interpretation of what the scriptures are saying, what are you doing? And taking away. So you're putting yourself in jeopardy just by doing these kind of things. When you don't, I mean, I think that's what, when we bring forth information, it's like, even amongst ourselves, it's like, okay, so what you got to back that up? Like you making a statement, what you gonna back that up with? You know, one of the famous sayings is, I need another witness. Give me another witness. Because out of 2 or 3 witnesses, let what? Right? So you can't establish nothing out of these scriptures without a second and a third witness. Let's go to verse 3.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 3. Your eyes have seen what the Most High did because of Baal Peor. For all the men that followed Baal Peor, the Most High, your power, has destroyed them from among you.
Okay, stop. Who is Baal Peor? Who is it?
Dionysus in Greek. And
Moab.
Moabite.
Moabite God.
He was a Moabite deity, right? Now, let's go to Numbers 25. What was you saying out here? He was a who?
No, you know how Greco-Roman culture reinvented a lot of the old deities and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I think they call it another name for it was like Bacchus.
Okay. Numbers 25 and verse 1.
Numbers chapter 25 and verse 1. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab.
With the daughters of Moab. So what whoredoms could the people have possibly been committing with the daughters of Moab? Continue.
Verse 2. And they called the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods.
So what is this? What whoredom is this? Idolatry, right? Specifically told us not to do that in Exodus 20, right in the 10 Commandments, written on the stone tablet. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Don't do it. Do not bow down to them, nor serve them. And what did they do? Bow down to their gods. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And Israel joined himself to Baal Peor, and the anger of the Most High was kindled against Israel. And the Most High said to Moses, take all the heads of the people for the Most High against the sun, and the fierce anger of the Most High may be turned away from Israel.
That the fierce anger of the Most High may be turned away from Israel. Now, this not saying that he actually hung them. Just saying that when it say take the heads of Israel, it's talking about the leaders. Right? Continue.
Verse 5. And Moshe said to the judges of Israel,
What did he tell them?
slay you every one his men that were joined to Baal Peor.
Do what?
Slay you everyone his men that were joined to Baal Peor.
That were joined to Baal Peor. Slay them all. And I believe it was 24,000. Verse 9.
Verse 9. And those that died in the plague were 24,000.
24,000. Say that they thrust both the men of them. Where it says they thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through their belly, and slaughtered 24,000 of these people that joined the Peor. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 4. So, like I said, even when you're doing your own independent study, right? Because how does the saying go? If you give a man a fish, he eat for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he can eat for the rest of his life, right? So the goal is not to give you fish. I don't want to give you fish. I don't want to give you meat. I don't want to give you milk, right? I want to teach you how to get it for yourself. So when you read in this book, and you just read through, but the way that I do it is every time I get to something and I may not know exactly what it's saying, if I don't write it down, I try to find it and look it up right then and there. That's how I try to study. I mean, because I know a lot of times we just read and read and read and read, but you might not understand everything that you read, or you might not know exactly what that go back to, or what that's a part of, or what is really, the reason why something is happening. So that's why I take the approach that anytime I come across something that might not be 100% clear, I always try to research that particular portion. So it took me, I think it took me about a month to go through the book of Jeremiah, the entire book of Jeremiah, just for the first time. It took me about a month. And not because I'm a slow reader, but because I had to know everything. Well, what is this saying? Well, what is this going back to? What about this? So when you're putting in your study time, that's the kind of effort you really got to put in to get everything out that you should get out. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 4.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 4. But you that did cling to the Most High your power, are alive, every one of you, this day.
So remember, so let's go, just going back a verse, he said, remember what happened to all them people that followed Baal Peor, and how the Most High basically just took them out the game. But you that cleave unto the Most High are alive for you to this day, every one of you to this day. Verse 5.
Verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Most High, my power, commanded me, that you should do so in the land where you go to possess it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what name, who has the Most High so near to them, as the Most High, our power, is in all things that we call upon him for? Verse 8. And what nation is there so great that has statutes and judgments, so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day?
That's good. Let's go to Job 28 and 28. So he said, behold, I taught you all the statutes and the judgments that the Most High commanded me to do before, that when you go into the land in order to possess it. So keep them and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, so that the other people round about you gonna look like, hey, like this is a great nation. Like the most, who else had the Most High been this tight with? Right? Who? Look at the wisdom that they got. They got the law. Look like the other nations round about actually envying the children of Israel because of our relationship with the Most High. Whether then now it go is when people see that you like, man, you got a Bible, they look at you like you a square, like it's a bad thing. Like, you got a Bible, but right, like it's like you ridiculed for carrying around a Bible. Automatically, it's like, oh, this dude must be soft. You know what I'm saying? You got a Bible? No, you follow the Bible, you got to be soft. Like, come on, man. Job 28 and 28.
Job chapter 28 and verse 28. And to man he said, behold, the fear of the Most High, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil.
That's good right there. And to depart from evil is understanding. Get Psalms 111 and 10. So he said unto him, behold, the fear of Yah, that's wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. Like I said, which we're gonna hit the scripture, so I ain't gonna kill him just yet. Psalms 111 and verse 10.
Psalms 111 and verse 10. The fear of the Most High is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endures forever.
For how long?
Forever.
His praise endures forever. Romans chapter 3. So it says that the fear of Yah is the beginning of wisdom. So everybody in here, I'm sure, have gone through this, I'll say, phase of the truth, right? To the point where the truth was presented to you, to the point where you have fear for the Most High is the reason why you obedient in order to do the commandments. And like it says, a good understanding have all they that do his commandments, right? This is what really how the Most High looks upon us, but how the other nations round about who really, if you go back to Genesis, right? Abraham's sons, right? Ishmael, Esau, all of these other nations was hot at the children of Israel for what? Why was Esau ticked off with Jacob? Because he had the birthright, the promise, right? Ishmael and Isaac, what was they beefed out about? The same thing, right? The covenant was made with Israel. So the nations round about was really just jealous. They was envious because The Most High dealt with us directly, gave us the law, and they was hot about it the whole time, right? To the point where they like, we're gonna get them. From the whole entire time. Romans chapter 3 and verse 1.
Romans chapter 3 and verse 1. What advantage then has Israel? Or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way. Chiefly.
Much every way. Now this, me and Trav a couple weeks ago was talking to this pastor and a couple of the brothers out of this congregation. And we hit the scripture in particular because they like, oh, it says no Jew, no Gentile, and no difference between Jew and Gentile, right? Well, that in that case, that would make this a contradiction because it says, what advantage has the Israelite, or it says the Jew, or what profit is there of the circumcision? And the first statement after that is much, every way. In every single aspect of life, we have the advantage, right? Read.
But chiefly,
but this is the number one advantage, right?
Because to them were committed the oracles of the Most High.
Because them, the Most High gave his word directly. Directly. We didn't have to hear it secondhand because if you think about it, Israel was to be a nation of what? Let's go back to Deuteronomy 4. Israel was a nation of what? Priests and kings, right? So that meant that every other nation was going to receive the word how? Right? So that's like, well, you know, like I said, well, why he choose them? Like you said, it's the same premise over and over and over again, right? Ishmael hot because because Isaac was chosen. Esau hot because Jacob was chosen, right? The other nations, and really all the other nations was extensions of Abraham, but they hot because we were chosen by the Most High. And we're going to get to that further on. Let's read verse 9, chapter 4 and verse 9.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 9. Only take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. But teach them to your sons and to your sons' sons.
That's good right there. But teach them to your sons and to your sons' sons. So it said, take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen. Let's grab Exodus 32 and verse 1. What could he possibly what could he possibly mean by the things that your eyes have seen? Because remember, the Torah is in chronological order, right? Genesis happened, then Exodus, then Numbers, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It happened one after another. It's like reading a novel. That part of the book is chronological. Though when you read through the prophets themselves don't fall in chronological order, and they actually run. They actually are happening at the same time. A lot of the prophets were prophesying at the same time. We talked about that previously, but so knowing that the book is in chronological order and Deuteronomy happened after Exodus, right? What could he possibly be meaning by take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen? What did they see? Right? Right? Let's read Exodus 32 and verse 1.
Exodus chapter 32 and verse 1. And when the people saw that Moshe delayed to come down out of the mountain, the people gathered themselves together at Ar and said to him, up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him.
Jump down to verse 4.
Verse 4. And he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool, and he had made it a molten calf. And they said,
that's good right there. Start right there. So they just came out of Egypt. I mean, just came out of Egypt. And already Moses was up on the mountain for what? 40 days and 40 nights. So he wasn't even up on the mountain but a month and some change, right? and they just seen fire rain down. They seen water turn to blood. They seen the messenger of death come through and smite all the firstborn of Egypt. I mean, they seen some stuff that we can only pray the Most High that we would see. You know, not even a month and a half later, they already like, look, Aaron, make us something to worship. Like, we getting bored. Like, I don't know what happened to Moses. Right, right. And Aaron like, man, just bring me some gold. You know, like Aaron went along with it, right? I mean, this stuff just happened. The Most High speaking to Moses directly, Aaron directly. And they witnessed all these miracles. And then the first thing they do when Moses was gone for a little while was act a fool. Could finish that verse 4 out.
Verse 4. And he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool. And he had made it a molten calf. And they said, these be your gods, O Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt.
So the very stuff that they just took off of their own body, they melted it down, and he made them an image. And he like, look, Israel, this is what did it for you. And they worshipped it. Like, what kind of nonsense? So Moses is warning them about the same thing. Like, look, and go back to Deuteronomy 4. In verse 9, he say, look, keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen, and they depart from your heart all the days of your life, but teach them to your son and your son's sons. Now, the one thing about teaching somebody a lesson, right? In order to teach somebody a lesson, you got to have it, right? You got to retain it. When you first come into the truth, I know a lot of us done dealt with this. We first came into the truth and was extra zealous. Like, man, this is the whip. I'm telling you, we the children of Israel, blah, 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 blah. And you tried to take it to somebody who was more learned than you, or who was more well-versed than you in the scriptures, or who had just been a Christian for way longer than you. And they bust your head wide open. Wide open. And you was like, dang. Well, maybe I'm gonna have to reevaluate some stuff. But it happened to a whole lot of us because we thought we knew. We thought we knew. And then it come to the point where you say stuff like, well, I don't know how, we just is. You know what I'm saying? And the way I done dealt with a lot of brothers that did this very same thing. And my explanation to them was, you cannot go up against somebody that's going to challenge it until you got it. It's just like somebody asking you, well, how did that TV work? And you like, I just press the button and it come on. No, but how does it work? And you can't explain it because you ain't never built the TV. You don't know what go on when you take them plastic covers off and you see all the wires. You don't know how the wires work. You just know if you press the button, it's an image gonna come up there, right? Until you learn how this thing works, you can't, just don't. Get it here and get it here. Then that way, when somebody come up to you and they like, well, how are y'all the children of Israel? And you go right here. And now when we talked to the pastor and his people the other day, he was like, we agreed on a whole bunch of points. Don't get me wrong. And the pastor said specifically, well, the one thing we're gonna have a problem with is that y'all showing us how we the children of Israel. And my response was, that's the easy part. Like, that's the easy part. Like, it's harder. It's really harder to show you that we got to still keep the law, but showing you that we the children of Israel is really kind of the easy part. So, but that's because it's been years. And it's something that's now it's like embedded, and it's second nature. It's nothing. It's easy, right? It's just like anything. Something as simple as making a sandwich, right? If I told you to write down the procedure to make a sandwich, it's going to be hard to do that because it seems so simple. It's something that you just do without thinking. You know what I mean? So, but it didn't start off like that. It's some of our children who we teach to make a sandwich or who we taught to make a sandwich. You know, it's something simple like that. But This has become like making a sandwich. It's simple now. It's easy because it's second nature. It's in you. Now, right. Now, in order to follow the guidelines, now we got to teach it to our sons and our sons' sons. And if we get to the point where we got it and we not instructing our children, because the scriptures say what? Train up the way that he should go, because when they old, they not going to depart from it. So if we're not training our children after the ways of the Most High, we doing ourselves a disservice. But not only that, we actually breaking a commandment. We was commanded to do this stuff over and over and over again. Even when it came to the feast days, like in the Pesach in Exodus 12, right? He said, it's going to come a time that your son's going to come and ask you, what is this feast about? Because they didn't experience coming out of Egypt, just like we didn't experience it, right? They didn't see the miracles firsthand. They didn't put the blood on it, so they're not going to understand, Pop, why we putting blood on our doorposts? Pop, why we doing X, Y, and Z? But why do we got to kill a lamb of the first year without blemish? Why can't we just grab one of them goats from over there? Because that's not what we supposed to do. This is why we do it, and you train them and you teach them, right? That's your job. That is your job as a parent, to show your children, because then your children show their children. And then that's how you, what they talk about, what the scriptures talk about specifically that we lost: heritage, culture, right? We lost it because we don't practice it. Nobody is teaching heritage and culture, so we lose that kind of stuff. So it's the same thing. This is a part of our heritage, a part of our culture, so it must be taught on a consistent basis to our children, so that it remains in our family as heritage and culture from this point forward, right? All right, let's go back to Deuteronomy 4, verse 10.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 10.
So remember, he said, take heed to yourself, lest you forget everything that happened, right? Verse 10.
Especially the day that you stood before the Most High, your power, in Horeb, when the Most High said to me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children.
And they may do what?
Teach their children.
What we just said, right? Continue.
And you came near and stood under my mountain, under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire to the midst, to the heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And the Most High spoke to you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of the word, but saw no similitude. Only you heard a voice. And he declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform. And he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone.
Go ahead.
And the Most High commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that you might do them in the land where you go over to possess.
That you might do it in the land that you go over to possess. So he said, take heed to yourself unless you forget, in verse 9, especially the day that you stood before the Most High in Horeb and made the covenant. That's the thing. That's specifically, you don't want to forget that. Because, like I said, it was miraculous. They saw the mountain and it was smoke and thunderings. Let's go there. Exodus 20 and verse 18. But it was smoke and thunderings. And they made a covenant, right? It's just like with marriage, right? It's like when you get married, you do what? Right? Before the Most High, and the covenant is between you and your significant other, right? And so, in a day that something happened, or not agreeing, or whatever the case may be, and we all go through this, and you like, man, you know what? I done had enough of this. I'm ready to throw my hands up and walk. And it's like, you can't do that. You took vows before the Most High. Remember these vows that you took, because they're not to be taken lightly. If a man vow a vow, you're supposed to carry it out, are you not? That's what? It's the commandment, right? So if you don't carry out your vows and you violate the guidelines in which you are allowed to disannul a marriage, you are in direct opposition of a commandment. You are breaking the law and you put yourself in jeopardy of catching it, right or wrong. Okay, so this is the same situation. Now, just to bring it to break it down in a simple form for us all to understand. But it's the same situation. Take heed to yourself diligently, like it's saying in verse 9, and keep your soul diligently, unless you're going to forget the same vows that you made to the Most High. Exodus 20 and verse 18.
Exodus chapter 20 and verse 18. And all the people saw the thundering and the lightning and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off.
So they got scared. Like, man, what in the world is happening over here? Go ahead.
And they said to Moshe, speak you with us, and we will hear. But let not the Most High speak with us, lest we die.
Look, you talk to us. We don't want no parts of all that. What's going on over there? Go ahead.
And Moshe said to the people, fear not, for the Most High has come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that you sin not.
Okay, so it says that the fear of Yah is the what? Is the what? The beginning, right? So do you think it was a coincidence that he came like the way he came? Nah, he came like that on purpose. Like, yeah, okay, y'all want to see something? But watch this. Right. Boom! Thunder. Lightning. You know what I'm saying? The whole 9 yards. Smoke. Fire in the sky. You know, and they like, oh my goodness. Moses, like, you talk to us, like, we don't want no parts of that. Like, they was afraid. But that was the beginning, showing you that how easy you could be took out the game. That was just the starting point. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And the people stood afar off, and Moshe drew near to the thick darkness where the Most High was. And the Most High said to Moshe, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, you have seen that I have talked with you from heaven.
See that? See that right there? Thus you shall say to the children of Israel. You see how I get at you, right? You see how I do, right? This is how I get down. You know how I get down. Boom. Right. Verse 23.
You shall not make me gods of silver, neither shall you make to you gods of gold.
Okay. Go to chapter 24. So he told them flat out, you see how I get down. I'm talking to you through the sky, smoke, thunder, lightning, fire, all of these different elements, like, and I'm talking to you with a voice that sounds like a water, like what it say, many waters, right? You see how I get down. Don't make no idols. Like, that's pretty much what he did. You see how I do. Don't turn back and make no silver and no gold. Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he tried to literally put the fear of the Most High in these people. Verse 2, Exodus 24 and 2.
Exodus chapter 24 and verse 2. And Moshe alone shall come near the Most High, but they shall not come near, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moshe came and told the people all the words of the Most High, and all the judgment. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Most High has said, we will do.
So the people agreed. They took the covenant, right? They vowed the vow, right? And going back to Deuteronomy 4 and 9. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 4. But verse 9, it says, only take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen. And that's specifically what he told them. You seen me talk to you in the smoke. You seen how this go down. And Moses telling them, like, don't forget what you saw. Because that's one of the easiest things easiest ways to fall off. You forget. Like, man, I actually experienced this. And they forgot just that quick. I mean, not even a month later, they forgot all about it and turned and went the other way. And Smash them out. Kill them. Get them up out of here. It's Deuteronomy 4 and chapter 4 and verse 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 15. Take you therefore good heed to yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Most High spoke to you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flies in the air, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth, unless you lift up your eyes to the Shamayim. And when you see the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of Shamayim should be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Most High, your power, has divided to all nations under the whole Shamayim.
That's good right there. So we know what this go back to, right? It's an easy one. Don't make no graven images. Or nothing in the air, nothing that creep, no bugs, no animals, no man, no woman. We know what this go back to. It's an easy one, right? What did it go back to? Huh?
Idolatry.
Idolatry, right? Specifically, what we read every Sabbath. We would not make any carved image or any likeness of that which is in Shamayim above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. So, my question to you, is the commandment, don't worship idols? Is that the commandment? The commandment is don't worship idols? Let's go to Exodus 20 and 4. Let's go to Exodus 20 and 4. As we want to read the commandment specifically to see, does it says, don't worship idols. Shemot chapter 20 and verse 4.
You shall not make to you any graven image.
You shall not worship.
Make any graven image.
You shall not bow down.
Make any graven
You
image.
shall not make any graven image. It don't say worship it. So it's like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I got it, but I don't worship it. But that's not what it says. It says don't make it. So you had an argument, because we know that in the temple, right? When they made the temple, they fashioned cherubim, bullocks, flowers, all these different things was fashioned and was graven, right? So they said, well, it was graven images in the temple, right? Read it again.
You shall have, no,
Verse 4.
You shall not make to you any graven image.
Read it again.
You shall not make to you any graven image.
Read it out of here.
This is out of the Hallelujah scriptures. It says, Exodus chapter 20 and verse 4. You do not make for yourself.
Read it again.
You do not make for yourself.
Do not make for yourself any carved image, right? So the images that was in the temple, the things that was carved, did we make them for us? We made them for the temple, right? For the Most High, right? But when the children of Israel threw all their gold and they got that molten calf, what did they do? They made it for themselves, right? They made it for themselves, but that was, it's very specific. Do not make for yourself any carved image. So if there's anything that you are personally attached to, it's idolatry, period. Period. If you can't break it and toss it in the garbage, you need not have it. Because that means you have an attachment to it. And that was the whole premise behind it. It's not just bowing down and worshiping it. Because if that was the case, he wouldn't have said don't make it. He would have just said the second part of it when it says don't bow down and don't worship it. But he specifically said don't make it because he don't want you to get attached to it. So when we deal with the fact that the brazen image, right, that they made of the serpent that was healing people that got bit by the snake. We familiar with that? So eventually he broke it because the people they start having an attachment to it, thinking that this is what's healing us. But it was the Most High that was doing the healing, right? So it's specific, even though it's very simple. Like, we think of it so simply, like, oh yeah, no carved image. Like, yeah, I get that. No, you can't. If you got anything that's along those lines, that even that you made yourself, nah, you ain't supposed to do it. Period. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 4. I like this one right here. This is a good one. Verse 20.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 20. But the Most High has taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be to him a people of inheritance, as you are this day.
That's good right there. So the Most High, we know the Most High brought us out of Egypt, right? We know that. That's very simple. Everybody is aware. The Exodus, right? But what do it say about Egypt right here in this verse? What do we refer to Egypt as?
Iron furnace.
The iron furnace, right? What is the iron furnace used for? Exactly. Let's go to Ezekiel 22 and verse 17. Because a lot of times you don't peep this part, that it was actually a purging going on in Egypt, that Egypt was actually a refining, that iron furnace. We don't see that right here. Ezekiel 22, let's start at verse 17.
Ezekiel chapter 22 and verse 17. And the word of the Most High came to me, saying, Son of man, the house of Israel is to me become dross, and they are brass and tin and iron and lead in the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver.
In the midst of what?
In the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver. Therefore, thus says the Most High, because you are all become dross, behold, therefore I will gather you into the midst of Jerusalem, as they gather silver and brass and iron and lead and tin into the midst of the furnace, to blow the fire upon it, to melt it. So will I gather you in my anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. Yea, I will gather you and blow upon you in the fire of my wrath, and you shall be melted in the midst thereof.
That's good right there. So then, as I'm reading this, I'm like, what in the world is dross? Like, what is dross? How did we become dross? Anybody know what dross is? Anybody?
It's dross.
That's Dr. Dre and Rick Ross.
Right.
Put together. Dross. They become dross. Anybody? Okay. So, dross. So, a precious metal, right? When you go to refine it, and you put fire to it, and you melt it, and you put it in the furnace, the process of refining is separating the purity of the metal from the impurities of the metal, right? Dross is the impurities of the metal. That's what dross is. So when we was in that iron furnace of Egypt, right, we was being refined, right? So when we was being refined, and the Most High says specifically, let's go to Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 3. When we was in that furnace and we was being refined like this precious metal, we say the children of Israel have become like brass and iron and lead and tin in the midst of the furnace. So he's equating us, or he's comparing us to these precious metals. But it say that we done became the dross, like the dross of silver, or like the impurities that comes after refining silver. Read that verse 3.
Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 3. The fining pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold, but the Most High tries the heart.
But the Most High tries the heart. Isaiah 48 and 10. So the Most High is trying us, or he's refining us. Like it said, the refining pot is for silver. The Most High is comparing this refining of Israel, putting us in the same category as a precious metal. And he's doing this refining. He's trying us by our heart. And if your heart is impure, then that's when he's comparing us to this dross, the impurities that comes off of this silver. But verse 10.
Isaiah chapter 48 and verse 10. Behold, I have refined you, but not with silver. I have chosen you in the furnace of affliction.
In the furnace of affliction, he's chosen us. So when we was in this iron furnace of Egypt, what was happening? We was being afflicted, right? We was being afflicted, but we was being refined, so that when the Most High heard the cries of the children of Israel, right, and he came and he got Moses, said, Moses, go down, your people, I done heard their cries, go down, it's time to get them up out of there. Go to Malachi chapter 3 and verse 2. It's time to get them up out of there. It's time to get them off that iron furnace. The refining process is complete. They ready. I done heard it. I done heard enough. So it was a refining going on. So after the affliction came, like you said, in that furnace of affliction, where we was being refined to the point where we was pure enough to where it was time to come out. But it had turned to the point where we was the other side. We was the other part where we had become the impurities, an impure heart, right? But start at verse 2.
Malachi chapter 3 and verse 2. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, and they may offer to the Most High an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant to the Most High, as in the days of old, as in the former years.
As in the days of old, or in the days of former years. So this is prophecy of Malachi saying that he's going to refine the children of Levi, and then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem is going to be back good like it used to be. It's going to be pure again. It was pure at one point in time, but it ain't pure no more. We became like dross. So back to Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 20, it says, and he brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be a people unto him, a people of inheritance. So there's no way we could have been his inheritance if we hadn't been made pure, if we had not gone through that refining process, right? And he's letting us know that that refining is going to happen again. And we're going to be purified once again, because we done once again went through what? Affliction, right? Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 21.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 21. Furthermore, the Most High was angry with me for your sake, and swore that I should not go over Jordan, and that I should not go into that good land, which the Most High, your power, gives you for an inheritance. But I must die in this land. I must not go over Jordan, but you shall go over and possess that good land.
That's good. So we know that Moses didn't make it into the promised land, right? Does everybody know why Moses didn't make it into the promised land? No? Okay, let's get it. Numbers 20 and verse 11.
Right there, Moses probably speaking in a hot manner.
Right, because look, let's go back to verse 21. Read verse 21 again. Deuteronomy verse 4, chapter 4, verse 21.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 21. Furthermore, the Most High was angry with me for your sake, and swore that I should not go over Jordan, and that I should not go into that good land, which the Most High, your power, gives you for an inheritance.
Right there. So just peep what Moses is saying. Like, so we know the Most High is mad with me because of y'all, right? That I ain't gonna get to see the good land because of y'all, right? Like he put it right off on them. Y'all know he pissed at me because of what y'all did. I was just trying to get y'all thirsty Negroes some water. You know, I'm sure he was going. I'm sure he had to feel a certain type of way. I mean, I've been in this doggone wilderness with y'all jumpers for 40 years. Got you up out of Egypt, done parted the Red Sea, Man, I was about to give my life for y'all jokers. And I don't even get to go into the land. He had to feel a certain type.
He played the blame game too.
Right, yeah, he played the blame game. Because he was the one that smoked the rock. Let's read it. Let's go to let's say Numbers 20 and let's not start at 11. Let's start at verse 2.
Numbers chapter 20 and verse 2. And there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moshe and against Aaron. And the people chode with Moshe and spoke, saying, would the Most High that we had died when our brethren died before the Most High? And why have you brought us up, the congregation of the Most High, to this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there?
That's good. So the children of Israel, they in the wilderness, they wandering through the desert, they thirsty. Like, man, the Most High just brought us out here so we can die. What about our cattle? They gonna die too? What was the point of coming out? They're just complaining. They just complaining. That's how you go to Israel. That's why I think that's why the Most High compared Israel to him. Because no, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real. We family. We family. I can say that. I'm gonna keep it real. But I think that's why the Most High compares Israel to a woman. Because we could be doing our best to make you happy. We could be doing our best to make you happy. I'm talking about breaking our back. And the first thing you'll come and say is, yeah, exactly. Exactly. The meme on Facebook said, you could give a woman the world. And it showed a man handed a woman the earth. And her response was, you forgot the moon and stars. You know what I'm saying? So it's just funny. I'm just having fun. But you know, it's can you imagine the Most High did all of this stuff and these jokers still out here complaining? Like yo behind could still be in Egypt building pyramids and lifting rocks and making bricks. You know what I mean?
No strong mortar.
Right. Jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. And the Most High spoke to Moshe, saying, take the rod and gather you the assembly together, you and Aaron, your brother, and speak you to the rock.
And do what?
Speak you to the rock.
And speak you to the rock. Go ahead.
Before their eyes, and it shall give forth its water, and you shall bring forth to them water out of the rock. So you shall give the congregation and their beasts drink.
So Moses was supposed to go to this rock and talk to it. We need some water, Rock. Let's see what Moses did. Verse 10.
Verse 10. And Moshe and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said to them, hear now, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock?
So he already going at them like, call them rebels. Listen here, y'all knuckleheads. You know what I'm saying? He going already. And verse 11.
Verse 11. And Moshe lifted up his hand, and with his rod, he smote the rock twice.
He smote the rock twice. So he didn't speak to it, but he hit the rock. So he actually just disobeyed the Most High. Go ahead.
And the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also.
Verse 12.
And the Most High spoke to Moses and Aaron, because you believe me not to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I gave them.
Okay, so there it is right there. Because you didn't believe what I told you and just talk to the rock, because what's the difference between, I mean, the result was water, right? The result was the same. Water came from the rock. But what's the difference between Moses speaking to the rock and Moses smiting the rock?
I mean, according to the Most High, the difference is him speaking to it, it would have looked more miraculous. They probably would have given him the glory versus like him hitting it. They might have thought it might not really been a rock. It was some weird kind of pinata type thing that had liquid in it and he just beat it out. Like, it was really like a miracle, you know what I'm saying? But he was talking to it, despite what it was made of. It would be like, whoa, he just talked this this solid object in the open up. You know what I'm saying? And that would be like, oh yeah, he went into the Most High. We've been noticing.
What?
Oh, I was just gonna say, he probably was just trying to look like you know, like I look what I just did. I hit a rock. Now if he was talking to it, then he was just trying to seem more powerful. But if he was talking to it, then everybody was like,
Exactly. Go ahead.
I was saying, I was thinking that maybe he had
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
What you got, Trav?
Because he said it.
Because he said,
Because he told them. That's the difference. He's smoking. But I told you, it's not necessarily always about the action itself. But just do what I told you.
right. Yeah, just do what I told you. But
Disobedience.
exactly,
And you got it in
disobedience.
feelings.
And the premise behind it is that Moses took the action and bam, hit the rock. So now all the people looking like Moses just got us water out of this rock. But if he had have spoke to it and be like, thus said the Most High, bring forth water, rock, the people are going to be like, look what the Most High did for us. So Moses, by him taking the action and smiting the rock and causing it to give water, he took the esteem away from Yah. Right? And the Most High said he not going to share what?
Glory.
With who?
Man.
Nobody. Right? Go ahead.
On top of that, though, it's like he didn't even seem to have a repentant spirit following it because it's like he didn't want to own up to, you know, because it's saying right here, no, he's mad at him. But he like lied, like, you know, that's like lying on his words. He turned it back saying, it's written that he was mad at him. But he didn't give it to the people as it was written. Like, he gave it to them like, mad at y'all.
Yeah.
So
y'all know I ain't
Moses
gonna make it to the land because it's y'all fault. Because Moses, like he said, he played the blame game. Like, I would have never hit the rock if y'all jokers wasn't complaining the whole time. Like, dang, complain. Wake up. Moses, we ain't got nothing to eat. Moses, we ain't got nothing to drink. You know what I'm saying? Every time I look up, y'all complaining about something. Just shut up. You know? We don't all experience that form of frustration. Okay, let's go back to so you clear on that one? Okay. Let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 23.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 23. Take heed to yourselves, that you forget the covenant of the Most High, your power, which he made with you. And which he made with you, and make you a graven image, or the likeness of anything which the Most High, your power, has forbidden you. For the Most High, your power is a consuming fire, even a jealous power. When you shall father the children and children's children, and you shall have remained alone in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Most High, your power, to provoke him to anger, I call Shamaim and earth to witness against you this day, that you shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto you go over Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days upon it. You shall utterly be destroyed. And the Most High shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, where the Most High shall lead you. And there you shall serve God, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell.
That's good right there. Okay. So what comes to mind after reading that verse. This is probably the number one read chapter of every Israelite across the face of the United States of America. Deuteronomy 28. Let's go there. Yeah, we're gonna see what it's saying. 28 and verse 15. Because he said, and I want to hold your finger in Deuteronomy. I know y'all got your finger in Deuteronomy 4. We're gonna flip between Deuteronomy 28 and Deuteronomy 4. I want to show a little parallel real quick. Verse 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken to the voice of the Most High, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you.
That's good right there. So it's the same prophecy, right? Hold your finger at 15, flip back, and let's reread Deuteronomy 4 and verse 25.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 25. When you shall father children and children's children, and you shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourself, and make a graven image, or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Most High, to provoke him to anger.
Stop right there. Let's go back and read 15. And I want to see if y'all notice the difference.
Yeah, bring this Bible in, y'all.
You notice the difference already? Read 15 again. 28 and 15.
28 and 15. But it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken to the voice of the Most High, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you.
Jump down to 62. Y'all notice the difference between the two? Trav said he noticed it. Anybody else pick up the difference? What you noticed, Trav?
Before he said, when you, like, you're going to do this. The team said, if you.
Yeah.
I know you're going to do it.
Right, right. The Deuteronomy 4, it say flat out, when you shall beget children and children's children, and you have remained in the land, long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves and make graven images or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of Yahuwah to provoke him to anger. He basically saying that this is going to happen. But in 28 and 15, it says, but it shall come to pass if you will not hearken unto the voice. But he's telling them that if you don't listen to the voice of the Most High, that this is going to happen. In verse 4, he's saying, I know you ain't going to listen to the voice of the Most High, so this is going to happen. Like, he already letting them know. Let's jump down to verse 62.
Deuteronomy,
it's the same joint.
chapter 28 and verse 62. And you shall be left few in number, whereas you were as stars of Shamaim for multitude, because you would not obey the voice of the Most High. And it shall come to pass that as the Most High rejoiced over you to do good and to multiply you, so the Most High will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to nothing. And you shall be plucked from off the land where you go to possess it. And the Most High shall scatter you among all people, from one end of the earth even to the other. And there you shall serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, even wood and stone.
That's good right there. Okay, let's go to Nehemiah, the first chapter. And hold your finger in Deuteronomy 4. We're going to flip back and forth from Nehemiah, the first chapter, to Deuteronomy 4. And we're going to get a little clarity on the Deuteronomy 28. Just a little bit.
You gonna make them mad?
I ain't going to make them mad. The book might make them mad. It ain't me.
It ain't me, ain't mad with the book. You bringing it out.
Don't blame me.
So my Nehemiah.
Nehemiah, what?
1. Nehemiah chapter 1.
Somebody stole my Nehemiah.
So, is everybody familiar with what takes place during the books of Nehemiah and Ezra? Okay. So during the books of Nehemiah and Ezra, just to be clear, portions of the book of Ezra are actually Nehemiah, actually his words. Ezra, being was a scribe, wrote it. Nehemiah's words. Nehemiah the prophet. Ezra the scribe. So portions of Nehemiah, or portions of Ezra were Nehemiah's words, right? So Nehemiah and Ezra like go hand in hand. They like two. It's like Matthew and Mark, right? It's like two different point of views, so to speak, of the same occurrence. So Nehemiah, you found it yet?
Nehemiah saw it. I got it.
So Nehemiah chapter 1 and verse 1. Okay, so during this time of Nehemiah and Ezra, it was after the Babylonian captivity, and they was allowed to go back into the land of Israel, leaving out of Babylon. Nehemiah chapter 1 and verse 2.
Nehemiah chapter 1 and verse 2. That Hanani, right? Hanani, right? Hanani, Shenane, of the brethren. Hanani, one of the brethren came, he and certain men of Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews that had escaped, which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire.
Okay, stop right there. So when it says that the remnant of the people that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach, and the wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and the gates thereof are burned. So that we see the prophecy in Deuteronomy 28 and 62, it says that you shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of Shamaim in the multitude, because you would not obey the voice of the Most High, right? So jump back to Deuteronomy 4. Hold your finger at Nehemiah.
Make sure I hold my finger.
Yeah, Deuteronomy 4 verse 29.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 29. But if from there you shall seek the Most High your power, you shall find him, if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in tribulation, and all these things are come upon you, even in the latter days, if you turn to the Most High your power, and shall be obedient to his voice. For the Most High your power is a merciful power. He will not forsake you, neither destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them.
Okay, that's good right there. So we see that he told them flat out that when you mess up, the Most High gonna smash you out and he gonna scatter you, right? So in verse 27, you talk about scattering, and in verse 28 it says, "And there, after you scatter, you shall serve gods, the works of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, hear, eat, or smell. But if from there you shall seek Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall find him. And if you seek him with all your heart, and when tribulation and all these things are come upon you, even in the latter days, if you turn to Yahuwah, you shall be obedient to his voice. He say he's gonna bring you back." Now let's go back to Nehemiah chapter 1 and verse 4.
Nehemiah chapter 1 and verse 4. And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept.
So after they told him that it's only a remnant of the people that's left, and the gates of Jerusalem is burned, and the walls is broken down, and Nehemiah fell down and was like in agony, crying, right? Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept, and mourned certain days, and fasted and prayed before the Most High of Shamaim, and said, I beseech you, O Yahuwah, Elohim of Shamaim, the great and terrible El, that keeps covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let your ear now be attentive, and your eyes open, that you may hear the prayer of your servant, which I pray before you now day and night, for the children of Israel, your servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against you. Both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against you, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments, which you commanded your servant Moses. Remember, I beseech you, the word that you commanded your servant Moshe, saying, if you transgress, I will scatter you abroad.
Okay, this is the key part right here. Verse 8, he said, I remember, I beseech you, the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying. So this is what the Most High told Moses, what we just read actually in Deuteronomy 4. Go ahead.
If you transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. But if you turn to me and keep my commandments and do them, though there were of you cast out to the uttermost parts of the Shamaim, yet will I gather them from there and will bring them to the place that I have chosen to set my name
That's
there.
good right there. So Nehemiah, after the Babylonian captivity, or he's praying to the Most High, like, remember what you told I remember what you told Moses. Give attention unto my prayer. I remember what you told Moses, that if we sin against you and you scatter us, even if you scatter us into the uttermost part of Shamaim, that you will gather us from there and will bring them into the place that you have chosen to set your name there, basically restoring Israel back to the land. So Nehemiah is specifically referring to the prophecy that Moses gave here in Deuteronomy 4 and also in Deuteronomy 28. If you see how it rides exactly with it, that like when it says that it's gonna scatter you from the uttermost parts, from one end of the earth to the other, and he mentions that specifically in verse 9. Now, who else made this same prayer, if y'all can recall? Anybody. Somebody else made a very, very similar prayer. Nope. Let's go. 2 Chronicles, chapter 6 and verse 36. Which is the same. 36. 6 and 36.
2 Chronicles chapter 6 and 36. If they sin against you, for there is no man which sins not, and you be angry with them and deliver them over before their enemies, and they carry them away captives to a land far off or near, yet if they bethink themselves in the land where they are carried captive, and turn and pray to you in the land of their captivity, saying, we have sinned, we have done amiss, and have dealt wickedly. But if they return to you with all their heart, with all their soul in the land of their captivity, where they have carried them captive, and pray toward the land which you give your fathers, and toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name, then hear you from the Shamaim, even from your dwelling place, their prayer and supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people which have sinned against you.
Okay, that's good right there. So it's the same prayer right here. Actually, in all actuality, Solomon made the prayer first when he built the temple. Solomon actually made this prayer first, and you got to understand that during the time of Nehemiah, the temple had been destroyed, and they had been led away captive under Babylon. So it was the same temple that Solomon had built that had been destroyed. So it was the same prayer that was given, that when the people be scattered, that they turn back to the Most High, and turn and actually pray toward the land. This is the reason why we face east. If there was anybody who wasn't in the know, but that's the reason why we face toward the Jerusalem, being in captivity, is specifically dealing with this prayer that Solomon made, because when you read further on, you see that the Most High actually acknowledged this prayer and was like, yeah, I do that. So that's the reason why we do it.
I seen somebody shot me a video about this very topic, right? So since you're addressing this, what about Ezekiel 8 and 16?
Let's go there. Ezekiel 8 and 16. Pretty sure I know what this is. Yep, Ezekiel 8 and 16.
Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 16. And he brought me into the inner court of the Most High's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Most High, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, and their backs toward the temple of the Most High, with their faces toward the east. And they worshiped the sun toward the east.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the person sent you the video saying, why do we face the east? Because this is saying, you know, these men face the east and worship the sun. So if we face the east, wouldn't we be worshiping the sun? Okay, so a couple things here. In Chronicles, specifically, this was talking about when we was led captive, right? And it says in verse 38, it says, if they return unto you with their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, where they have been carried them captives, and pray toward their land, which you have gave them and their fathers, and toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I built for your name. So the difference being in a land of captivity, and we're praying facing toward the house, toward the land, and toward the city. Difference here is, it says in verse 16, and he brought me into the inner court of Yahuwah's house. So they was there, right? And behold, at the door of the temple of Yahuwah, between the porch and the altar, were 25 men, and their backs were toward the temple of Yah. Completely different thing. We're facing the temple of Yah. Their backs were toward the temple. And it says that they prayed to the east toward the sun, and they actually worship the sun. Another thing is, the sun is that way. Even if we pray in that way, the sun is that way. We ain't even facing the sun, you know. But their backs were toward the temple, to whereas when we pray facing the temple in a captive land. So it's a completely different situation. Where they're there, and they're actually turning their back away from the Most High's house.
It signified that they turn their back on Yah.
Right, exactly. So let's go back to Deuteronomy 4. I'm gonna, well, we almost through. Wait, let me make sure. Yeah, we almost through. 4 and verse 32. We ain't got much on.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 32. For ask now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that Most High created man upon the earth, and ask from the one side of Shamayim to the other, whether there has been any such thing as this great thing is, or has been heard like it. Did ever people hear the voice of the Most High speaking out of the midst of the fire?
That's good. No, keep going.
As you have heard and lived.
So Moses is saying, ask anybody, have anything like this ever happened before? Did the Most High ever talk to anybody out of the fire? Ask anybody. It says, since the day that Yah created man upon the earth, and asked from one side of Shamayim onto the other, where if there have been anything like this so great, ask anybody. Keep going.
Verse 34. Or has the Most High said to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation?
Or not only did the Most High speak to anybody out the fire, but have the Most High ever went to another nation and took somebody out the nation? Ask anybody, have this ever happened? Keep going.
By temptation, by sign, and by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terror, according to all that the Most High your power did for you in Egypt before your eyes. To you it was showed that you might know that the Most High, He is Elohim. There is none else beside Him. Out of Shamaim He made you to hear His voice, that He might instruct you and instruct you. And upon earth He showed you His great fire, and you heard His words out of the midst of the fire. And because He loved your fathers, therefore He chose their seed and them, and brought you out of His sight with His mighty power out of Egypt, to drive out nations from before you, greater and mightier than you are, to bring you in, to give you their land for an inheritance, as it is this day.
That's good. Let's go to chapter 7 and verse 7. Chapter 7 and verse 7, because the thing that this put me into the mind of is that it says, and because He loved your fathers, but He's basically said, ask anybody, have this ever happened? Ask anybody on the face of the earth, had it ever happened that the Most High brought a nation out of a nation? Have He ever spoke to anybody directly out of the fire? But it happened because He wanted to show His might. Have He ever destroyed a whole nation because of a nation? But He wanted to show His might. And not just that, it's because of the covenant that He made with your fathers to show that He loved not just them, but the seed after them. So chapter 7 and verse 7, read.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 7. The Most High did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people.
Okay, go ahead.
For you were the fewest of all people.
So back to Deuteronomy 4 and 38. Say there. Deuteronomy 4 and 38, it says, to drive out nations from before you, greater and mightier than you, right? So verse 7 and 7, chapter 7 and verse 7 says, Yah did not show His love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number, because you was the fewest of all the people. You were actually the weaker of all the nations. Go ahead.
Verse 8. But because the Most High loved you, and because He would keep the oath which He had sworn to your fathers, has the Most High brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, and the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now, therefore, that the Most High, your Elohim, He is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, which keeps covenant and mercy with them that love Him and keep His commandments to 1,000 generations.
To 1,000 generations. So if the Most High can keep his vow and His oath that He made, the covenant that He made with Abraham, with Isaac, with Jacob, then we should be able to keep ours with Him, right? He the one doing for us. So if He can keep His with us, we should be able to keep ours with Him. But this goes right with that, like I said, being few in number. But He showed His might and power when He wiped out all these nations. But He didn't just wipe them out, like He didn't just burn them up like Sodom and Gomorrah. He actually used us, a nation that was smaller in number, not so great as these other people, and used us to wipe these people out of the land, to get them up out of there, to show His power and His might. The same thing with going back to Moses, to show that, so he gets this theme and not us to do it, because He didn't want that to happen. He didn't want for us to get this thing, like He said, lest you think that you did it, right? Because you didn't do it, we didn't do it, the Most High did it. So anytime we went to war without to consider the Most High, what happened? Caught an L. Caught an L because we tried to take it upon ourselves. Same thing why David, the lesson Trav did a few weeks ago, why David caught it and the plague came down, because David like, yo, number all the men of Israel, we about to go to war, we about to do this thing. And David wound up catching it because his intention was completely wrong. He thought because he was going to be greater in number that they was about to do some damage. But remember, the Most High used David to slay Goliath. He always used the weak things to take down the strong things to show His esteem. Nothing special about David except for the fact that the Most High was with him. That's really the only thing that's special about all of us, because He could use anybody. The Mashiach said these rocks could cry out. He could use these rocks to cry out. So that let you know that we ain't really nothing. The only thing that's good about us is the fact that we got Him. The fact that He on our side. So don't ever, get to the point where you feel like, oh, I'm this because of that, or I'm that. No, you ain't nothing. But what you are because of Him. Always keep that principle in mind. That's really a key principle, because then when we have any accomplishments, when we do anything that's good, when we complete tasks and accomplish goals, we know that these things happen because the Most High gave it to us, right? When stuff happened to you just for no reason, right? Like, man, I don't know what happened. I just walked in there and they was like, "Hey, you want a job?" And I was like, "Yeah." You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. It happened because the Most High, he give you favor. It's his favor, right? Like they say all the time, favor ain't fair, right? Favor ain't fair. It's not about being fair. It's about favor. Just like we show favor on our kids. If we in a place and our kids is playing a game, like, we can't help but like root for our own. You know what I'm saying? Or I won't say cheat. We won't cheat. We'll try to cheat. We'll cheat another kid, but I might trip a kid into racing something. No, But no, favor ain't fair. So the fact that we had a favor of Most High is what allows us all of these different things. And so we just one last go. Let's go to Deuteronomy 4:39. We're gonna finish up 2 more scriptures and we're done. Seriously, I'm for real. 3 more. Deuteronomy 4:39.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 39. Know therefore this day and consider in your heart that the Most High, he is Elohim and Shamayim above, and upon the earth beneath there is none else.
So, remember, he just running down the whole thing. Ask anybody, have this ever happened before? The Most High done went and gathered y'all out of nation. He smashed them out with plagues and signs and wonders. He drove out all these nations and gave you the best land. I'm talking about a good land that's flowing with milk and honey, and drove out all these nations before your face. Ask anybody, have he done this for anybody else? So he said, no. So know therefore this day and consider in your heart that the Most High, that is Elohim, is Elohim, is Shamayim, and on earth, and there is none else. Verse 40.
Verse 40. You shall keep therefore his statutes and his commandments, which I command you this day, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and that you may prolong your days upon the earth, which the Most High, your Elohim, gives you forever.
So, because he did all this stuff for you that he ain't did for nobody else, obey him. Point blank, period. Obey him, so that your days may be long upon the earth. Now, it's actually 2 scriptures that this go back to, but we're gonna let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And then the other one is right out of the commandments, right? What should we do so that our days are long upon the earth? Honor your father and your mother, so that your days shall be long upon the earth. It's the very same principle. You give esteem and honor unto the Most High, so that your days may be long upon the earth. Obedience unto him, so that your days may be long upon the earth. It's the same principle. Choose life, right? Choose life by obeying and keeping the commandments. Disobey and don't keep the commandments, you choose death. It's a very simple choice. One, you will die. The other one, you will live. Sound pretty simple to me. Easy, right? Deuteronomy 28 verse 1.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently to the voice of the Most High, your Elohim, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command you this day, that the Most High, your Elohim, will set you on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you, and you shall hearken to the voice of the Most High, your Elohim. That's
good right there. So it's the same situation as when Ezra was reading the law in the presence of the people, when it says above all the nations on the earth. It's a position thing, apart, set apart from all the nations that are on the earth, right? So it's the same situation. But that's pretty much it. But it's more at the end of Deuteronomy 4, but it's basically going into into when the Most High pretty much drove out the people from out of the city. I mean, from out of the land of Canaan. So we don't necessarily have to hit those. But I'm gonna open the floor up for any questions or comments from anyone. God, you folks wrote it down. Nobody? What you got?
I'm glad you hit like in the beginning what you was hitting about the routine and not really having understanding. I was just talking about that stuff last night and this morning. And I think one of the biggest reasons why our people that are quote unquote woke are in the state that we're in because everything has become routine.
Mm-hmm.
Like we do it like some people come to Shabbat service just to come.
Right.
It's normal, it's natural. It's like we do it for so long, but don't understand the reason behind it. If they do, they don't really, you know what I'm saying, engage themselves in the reason behind it. So, like, if you like speak to that point to why we supposed to keep the commandments, not just to do it, but it's a behind it.
You saying so in a sense where it don't become routine. I mean,
like you being involved with it as opposed to I'm just doing it. You know what I'm saying?
oh yeah, well it's just like anything. So what the Aqua was saying, if anybody didn't hear him, is in the beginning when we started going through this, I was talking about how not just reading for the sake of reading, but reading for understanding, so that the thing don't start to get like boring and mundane and just routine, and we just reading it. So what eventually will happen, knowing us, is that if for the first 30 minutes we reading the law, people won't show up to 3:30. That's just being real. If it ain't nothing coming out of it, people are not gonna show up to 3:30. This is true. I know this for a fact. So you gotta keep things fresh and keep things new. And I think that we as teachers do a really good job at that, in my opinion, of keeping things new and fresh and ever learning. And so it's always something new that's being brought out, and it's always something I say deep, you know what I mean? Deep understanding wise, not just the surface stuff, but it's stuff that's more in depth, right? So you're gonna get milk, but you're gonna get meat at the same time. And then you're gonna be able to digest it. And if not, you have questions and we're able to answer these questions. So I think keeping it fresh and keeping it new is something that we as teachers have really lived up to, in my opinion. But as far as so things don't become routine and get boring, I think that in order for things not to become boring and routine, we have to do one of the things that I mentioned in the beginning as our approach to teaching. It's like question response type thing. We got to do that. We have to do that because then at the same time that keep people paying attention. For one, if we ask you questions, you want to be paying attention. But I think that keeps you involved. When you're involved with something, it's not just like you just, I'm a spectator. Nah, it's just like baseball, right? Anybody play baseball? How many people here play baseball, softball, something like that? Anybody? Anybody like playing baseball? Do anybody like watching baseball? See the difference? When you're a spectator in something, as opposed to being involved in it and engulfed in it and actually a part of it, that's the difference. So I think staying involved, and it's really important for all of us to be involved to a certain extent.
I want to say something about he on the baseball tip. Now, if you watch baseball, it's boring as heck, right? But there's a key to it. He hit on something earlier, like Travis, me and Travis talk, we all talk, like, you know, when people come to class, take notes. I see nobody taking notes. So if you go to a baseball game, and most people love going to baseball games, they have a scorecard. That's how they keep up with everything. They know who put who out, this or that. So when you take notes, it becomes more fun to you. You go back and relearn everything.
And not just that, you know, when you write stuff down, it's easier to retain it. When you write it, when you're writing it down. Like the scripture say, write it down, make it plain. I know Brother Martin, he keep a book of notes.
Write down the book.
Right. He I mean, just like what was the king's task to do when he became king? Write the law. And you write it, because then when you write it, it's gonna stick. Go ahead.
Exodus 34:1, I'll reread that. I'm familiar with the children of Israel with Moses.
They wasn't because if you let's what's that, Exodus not 32, but let's go to Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3. Let's start at verse 10. Oh, this is right after Moses' encounter with the burning bush, right? And the Most High. Verse 10.
Exodus chapter 3 and verse 10. Come now, therefore, and I will send you.
I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. Chapter 4. I'm sorry, chapter 4 and verse 1.
Exodus chapter 4 and verse 1. And Moshe answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken to my voice. For they will say, Yahuwah has not appeared to you. And Yahuwah said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a rod.
Okay, so then the Most High got to showing him the different miracles, right, to do, so that they would believe him. Let's go to verse 10, 4 and 10.
Exodus chapter 4 and verse 10. And Moshe said to Yah, O my power, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And the Most High said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the dumb, or deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Most High? Now therefore go, and I will be with you. I will be with your mouth, and teach you what you shall say. And he said, O my master, send, I pray you by the hand of him whom you will send.
So basically, Moses making all these excuses why he don't want to go. He like, but I can't talk good. He like, listen, just go. I'm gonna be your mouth. But they ain't gonna believe me. He like, what, you got a rod? Here, throw the rod down. It's gonna become a steak. Put your arm in your jacket. It's gonna turn white. I'm giving you, like, what every excuse Moses tried to come up with why not to go. The Most High turned it around. Like, okay, I got you. Don't worry about it. I'm with you. You know what I'm saying? But Moses' affiliation with the children of Israel, remember, he left Egypt as royalty. So he ain't never, you know, he wasn't never in the hood. He wasn't never in Goshen. Like, what you doing around here? You ain't from around these parts. He ain't never went on the east side of Goshen. You from up in the palace. Yeah. What you mean? Who is this? Aaron, who is this? Aaron like, oh, that's my brother. Your brother? We don't know him. All right. Tucker got a list too. Why you talk so fast? You know what I'm saying? You know, you talk so fast. You know they was on his head. So finally he did some stuff and they believed it. But yeah, I believe, you know, because like even the way they said it in verse 32 and 1, like Because this man Moses, we don't know what happened to him. Right? Who was that joker? Yeah. We don't know what happened to old boy Moses. He was just here, then that joker been gone like a month. Yeah, but is that it? Anybody else? All right, let's go ahead and pray out before they
crank it
all
up.
right.